Implicit learning versus explicit learning, what each of them are, what the differences are, why implicit learning is more effective in a workout, and 3 ways that each of them show up in a workout and ways that we can make workouts more effective, transfer to the game more effectively, which is what it's all about. So, implicit learning is anytime the player is ideally teaching themselves or learning without them even realizing that they're learning, like a small-sided game, which I'll make a video on at some point. Explicit learning is when, well, actually I'll talk about small-sided games here in a minute, but explicit learning is basically when a trainer is like breaking down, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3, so then the player is learning it they're aware that they're learning, and there's somebody else teaching them. So 2 reasons why implicit learning is more effective. Number 1 is technique is not a one-size-fits-all thing. When we talk about jump shots, is probably the easiest example because you can kind of see differences. Steph Curry shoots very different than KD, than Tyrese Halliburton. So a lot of times technique is less about right or wrong and more about what's most comfortable. Exceptions to the rule, just like most things. Lonzo had to change his shot because this was more effective for various reasons. So obviously exceptions to the rule, but every athlete has a different childhood, a different background. They gravitate towards different movement patterns. So technique is more so about what's most comfortable. Number 2, optimal zone of improvement. So if you think about a teacher in class, in school, if they're giving you the answer to the problem, it's not going to stick. That's kind of the main thing, is implicit learning sticks and it transfers to the game better. So if a teacher is giving you the answer, it becomes too easy, is the reason why it doesn't stick. So if you think about like Goldilocks, too cold or too hot. So too easy or too hard, neither of them are really gonna stick as effectively. If something is too easy, if you're being told the answers, explicit learning, it becomes too easy, you go on autopilot for all of your reps, and you just kind of check out, you're not really present. If something is too difficult, on the other end of the spectrum, you're kind of just defeated mentally, you know that like there's nothing you can do, same thing, you kind of mentally check out. So optimal zone of improvement, implicit learning is right in the money spot. The money spot. So 3 different ways each of them show up in workouts and ways that we can make our workouts more effective, transfer to the game better, which is what it's all about. So implicit learning shows up in workouts via live drills. Live drills allow the athlete to self-organize, which is where the magic happens. So a between the legs dribble, for example. So I could sit there and break down the steps. Step 1, you put your foot here. Step 2, you open your hips up. Step 3, you bring the ball kind of backwards in between your legs so they can't steal it. Step 3, step 4, step 5. So I could do that, or we could just go live right off the rip, throw them into the fire. If you have, obviously if you're in a gym by yourself, there's different ways we can go about it. But if you have a partner, one-on-one, like stay in between the sideline and the lane line, so like zigzag drill basically. Somebody's pressuring you, you're in the fire, you have to figure it out. So like, okay, lots of thoughts in my head right now. But, so basically between the legs dribble, like, I could break down the steps or I could just let them figure it out. If someone's defending them and they're trying to blow by them and they keep getting the ball stolen, poked out, back tap, whatever it is, I don't have to say anything. I can sit on the sideline because I know that they're self-organizing. They're teaching themselves. Okay, the way I did this between the legs dribble, the way I shifted my weight, I feel like I could kind of sell the move more. I need to protect the ball more when I go between the legs. I don't have to say anything, that's all them doing. Implicit learning, the player teaching themselves. So my job is easy, I don't have to say anything. This video might get pretty long. I'm gonna try to not make it super long. Explicit learning on air. So kind of what I said. It's you, a trainer, breaking down in between the legs drill. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Giving them the answers, missing the optimal zone of improvement. It becomes too easy after a certain point. Okay. Implicit learning, demonstration. So what I like doing is throwing them into the fire, letting them figure it out. If they're not getting it. So earlier we talked about technique being not a one-size-fits-all thing, which can kind of make it sound like it's just head in the clouds, anything's possible, whatever goes. There's definitely teaching that goes on in a workout. So like an example would be, if we're working on our 2-foot finishes, I want to work on going left, right into a right-handed layup. So that's technique, I guess, right? So like if a player, if they gravitate towards the movement solution, more so going the opposite, so right, left, if they're more comfortable doing that, if they gravitate towards that movement pattern, time and a place for it. But right now in this example, I want them working on left, right, because there will be times where that's the best solution in the game. So if we're working on something specific, they do it a couple times, they're not getting it. I'm gonna demonstrate it probably again, right? Because ideally or in most workouts, you demonstrate it once and then they do it and then they can't figure it out. So I would go from no words, them doing the wrong footwork 3 times in a row. I would go from no words, letting them just kind of mess up, see if they self-organize. I would go from that to demonstration again. So give me the ball, just watch me, watch my feet, do it, let them figure it out. If you are a player that doesn't have a partner, observational learning is a major key. So if you're a player that doesn't have a partner, it's just you in a gym or a hoop or whatever, go on YouTube, watch players, observe them. Oh, I like this crossover. Oh, that move is tough, whatever it is, and then go work on it. Observational learning or demonstration. Explicit learning, words, like I said, breaking down the 5-step process, giving them the answers, missing the optimal zone of improvement. Implicit learning, external cues versus internal cues, major key. So external cues, let's say a player is shooting the ball too flat. They keep hitting the front of the rim, they're shooting line drives. So what we typically see in workouts or practice, if you're with a team or whatever, we typically see internal cues. They're shooting it flat. Okay, well, they need to jump higher, or they need to finish with their elbow at the eyebrow, or they need to do something with their hand as they're catching. External cues involves anything in the environment that they're in or kind of giving them problems to solve. So if they're shooting it flat, I would just say, shoot it higher, or give them a challenge, shoot it above the backboard. From there, it's on them to figure out how I'm going to accomplish or how I'm going to solve the problem of shooting it above the backboard. They are self-organizing, thus teaching themselves, thus implicitly learning. Internal cues, I wonder what time I'm at, but internal cues is anything pretty much involving like a body part. So kind of what I said, put your elbow here, finish with your elbow at your eyebrow. So now they're consciously thinking about it. They know that they're learning. Implicit learning involves throwing them into the fire, letting them solve their own problems, and then stepping in. I think as trainers, a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it too, Like I used to be so quick to like step in and kind of like show how much I know, break things down. Like as soon as they're not getting it, like one rep where they go right left instead of left right, let me break it down. We'll ruin the magic. The magic happens by them turning their own wheels, them solving their own problems, exploring the environment. So implicit learning, hit the optimal zone of improvement, not too easy, not too hard. Let the player teach themselves, self-organize, and it translates to a game more effectively.